Hey there, you're listening to Delve, a podcast from McGill University where we want to change how you think about management. My name's Eric, I'm Delve's managing editor, and today we're talking about vibe coding, how it's changing organizations, and the nature of product development.
You should be investing a lot more into training your existing people on what the benefits and pitfalls are of this new era of software that is upon us. Because those are the people that know about your company, your processes, and they'll be able to better tell you, okay, so this is where we're lacking, this is where we should implement.
So that was Lakshya Agarwal, a McGill alumnus and a forward deployment engineer at an AI company called Tavily. So he's about as knowledgeable as they come when it comes to vibe coding, the process of using AI to write code for you. So we caught up with him to ask, how is vibe coding changing how companies work? Can workers safely vibe code without fear of mistakes? Can tech CEOs safely fire their product teams, vibing their way to new markets? Well, not exactly. For vibe coding to work at its best, it's going to need the help of something called agentic engineering. So in this interview, we're going to learn all about what that means. So let's delve into it. All right. So Lakshya Agarwal, welcome to the Delve Podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
So I'm excited that you're here because you're somewhat of an expert in vibe coding. You were here fairly recently doing a workshop on it, kind of teaching some consultants about how to approach vibe coding and how to think about it. And I was hoping to tap into some of your wisdom, just kind of trying to understand what it is, what it means, and kind of how it's changing the way we can think about management and running companies and creating products and that kind of thing. So I think, so you're something like you work in agentic engineering, and that is a role that could not exist 10 years ago. It exists because of AI. And it's, to me at least, it seems like a response to vibe coding. Would that be an accurate assessment?
I would agree, yes.
Yeah, okay. So maybe a good place to start would be to kind of like just suss out the difference between like what is vibe coding and what is agentic engineering, and how do they connect together?
Yeah, for sure. I can give you like a quick walkthrough of both of those. So vibe coding as a concept really started early February 2025. One of the most acclaimed researchers in this space, Andrej Karpathy, he put out a tweet saying that he stopped looking at the code and he just fully gives into the vibes, as he phrased it, where he's just describing what he wants, and the AI that's inside of his computer is building what he wants. And that's how the term vibe coding came out to be, because you're essentially vibing with the machine. You're not putting any of your actual effort, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
When we contrast it with what agentic engineering is, that's a more structured way of doing vibe coding in a way, where you don't fully give into the vibes, so to speak, but you work side by side with the machine and you take things to completion to a certain degree where you as the user are satisfied with it. What that looks like in practice is, if I'm vibe coding something, I will have a vague idea of what I want to do, and whatever product comes out after a few iterations, I would be happy with that. When it comes to agentic engineering, it's a lot more defined, a lot more robust, and there are certain success criteria that have to be set up front, and only then you iterate until you get to that point. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a lot more structured and a lot more effort relative to what vibe coding is.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a ton of sense. So it's building a structure around vibe coding. So then I think that's because of the limits of vibe coding as a method for creating apps or for creating digital products. I wonder if you could tell me about the strengths and limits of vibe coding as a tool.
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest strength of vibe coding, what I have experienced and noticed as well, has been the speed of iteration, and the speed to get to a prototype is drastically reduced. Sure, there are costs associated in terms of using these models and training people on how to use these things, which are understandable. But overall, if you look at an average company that does not know what vibe coding is and then gets exposed to it, their knee-jerk reaction would be, this is amazing, let's go all in on this, and everybody should know how to vibe code. And that has happened to a lot of companies over the last, I would say, year and a half almost, where they've not known what vibe coding is. To them, software engineering is still this cycle of coming up with ideas, writing them down, building a plan around it, and then shipping something over a course of, let's say, 4 weeks, testing it, fixing it, then moving on to the other thing. All of that speed has essentially been compressed into something that you can do, let's say, in 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's what vibe coding unlocks for a lot of organizations, which is the time to prototyping has been reduced quite a lot.
Okay, that's interesting. And then, so what are the other risks involved with vibe coding? Yeah.
So the biggest risk involved is when you take this strength to the extreme. When you fully trust it, then you're getting into the risky territory, because the way these models work, so every model that has been trained so far on the transformer architecture has a certain context length. That context length used to be really small. It used to be to the order of, I'd say, about 64,000 tokens. Then it gradually moved up to 128,000 tokens, and models of today are all the way up to 1 million. So all of that has improved quite a lot, but the limitation that you cannot keep asking the model over and over and over again is still there. So when you're talking to the model and you're asking it to, generate an application for you, the first 3 or 4 times that you talk to it, it's going to be great. But the moment you keep talking to it more and more, it's going to get progressively worse because you are reaching the limit of your context. So if it's a 1 million context limit model and you keep talking to it, let's say 10, 12, 15 times for the same idea, eventually you'll get to a point where you're at, let's say 800,000 tokens has been consumed of that 1 million. So the model doesn't really have any more space to think about. We can put it that way. Like, it doesn't have space to think about.
Yeah.
And so it'll just keep giving you garbage.
Right.
And what I have noticed with a lot of people is they get into vibe coding. They're like, this is great. Let me keep continuing on this. And then they just keep going down the rabbit hole without realizing that there are a lot of technical limitations that still exist, which we cannot ignore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And then AI, and also let's say you create an app using an AI model, a coding model. If there's a mistake, it can't fix itself, right? Or I'm just curious, if you have a broken app, or if there's let's say you create an app for an iPhone updates, and now your app's not working properly anymore. Is AI capable of actually doing that ongoing work of maintaining a product to keep it running consistently and smoothly, and especially if you start selling it to customers and having them use it?
That is an interesting topic that you've brought up. Is it capable? Definitely yes. Do we have the infrastructure and infrastructure and examples on people doing this? Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
If the user that's in charge of this application recognizes that, the underlying software is updated, so my application needs to be updated, the user can go tell the AI, please update this app, and the AI will be able to do it. But if you think that the AI will just be sentient, looking at the application and then realizing, this is broken, let me fix it, I don't think that exists today. But I do know there are companies trying to make that a reality, where you have these always-on agents, or ambient agents, as some people call it, that consistently monitor what's happening and take action without requiring human approval. I don't know where this will go. My personal take right now is it's a bit too much. But again, the space is moving so fast, you don't really know what will work and what will not work.
So if I'm running a tech company, probably best for me not to rush out and just tell all my engineers to be or tell all my staff, everyone, even if they're not trained engineers or trained coders, to start vibe coding and creating products. But how does this? So maybe this is where agentic engineering starts to come into play, because it sounds to me like it's a lot about integration. How do we incorporate vibe coding into our workflows and designing it in such a way that it is actually maximizing output while minimizing the risks? So I wonder if you could talk to me just a little bit about that side of things.
Yeah. So even in my own personal experience, I would say I graduated from vibe coding into agentic engineering. And the way I was able to do that was by failing a lot and realizing what my pitfalls were. And now that I'm working in an organization that is really agent forward, I've seen firsthand how other people are also applying this in their own workflows. And I'd say the unifying factor in all of agentic engineering is that you as the human or the user are the one who's deciding what's correct and what's wrong. There are levels to it. So if you are, let's say, a CEO or a CTO, you might just take high-level architectural decisions and then delegate everything to an AI. That is a form of agentic engineering. Or you're, let's say, a software developer. You will come up with 6 different objectives that have to be met. All of the files that have to be created, you will create that whole plan and then hand it off to an agent for it to be start executing. That is also a form of agentic engineering. And the spectrum that exists over there is, I would say, works on the amount of risk you're willing to take. So as a CTO, you will take the high-level architectural decision, and then you'll hand it off to the AI, and you trust the AI to take the right decisions for you.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the CTO is the one who has to look at everything and say, okay, this looks good or this does not look good.
So when you're making decisions about what you want your AI to do, like, it's easy when it's one person. Like when you're saying like, okay, it's just me, I can make all the decisions about what I want this thing to do. But I imagine that gets pretty complicated when you have multiple people who can't agree. So like, how do you start approaching that?
Yes, that is a real problem that happens, because then you have everyone trying to make their own decisions and it sort of conflicts at the end. One thing that my company does, which I feel is a good thing to do, is to give autonomy and responsibility to the human and then just hand it off to them fully. So if you're in, let's say, a team of 4 people and you're working on a big project, you would use AI to first come up with how can we split this work among 4 people in a way that none of it is blocking for each of the other person, and you can all work parallelly. Once you do that, then you can say, okay, so person A, you are responsible for this feature and you are solely responsible for it. You don't need to ask everybody for review all the time. Get the feature done and then we'll come back, we'll take a look at it. So going back to my earlier point, that's like time for iteration, time to prototypes has reduced, but none of the other stuff can be removed. Like the review cycles, going through what has been done, doing like user testing, those kind of practices are still relevant. So when you're working in a team, it's more about how do we distribute the work amongst ourselves rather than how do we reduce the work.
Okay, interesting. So as an agentic engineer, where are you positioned in the organization? Are you on a product team? Are you where do you fit in the org chart? I'm just curious. So
I'm part of the forward deployed engineering team at Tavily. So shout out. And we sit almost at the intersection of sales, product, and engineering.
Okay.
Which most of my role is to sit down with our clients and customers, understand their business problems, and then help them implement Tavily into their agentic workflows, as well as help them build their agentic workflows as well.
Interesting.
So that offers me a view into our customers, what sort of problems they are facing, and also what sort of problems they're facing with our product.
Yeah.
So then I can take those learnings back to our product team, help the product improve while ensuring that our customers are succeeding, while also using my engineering knowledge and capabilities for that success.
Okay.
So if I was to place it in an org chart, it's going to sit in the middle of a lot of different departments.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, because the reason why I asked that is because it doesn't seem like it fits anywhere neatly in maybe a traditional way that an organization might be structured with the different kinds of teams. And it's intriguing to me because it feels like it unlocks the capability to get ideas from multiple different directions. So, you can get a marketer who's like, I have a product idea, and then they can just use vibe coding, create the thing, and then, pitch it to the CEO and be like, here's a proof of concept. And then maybe the product team can go out and, refine it and make it real. And it can also come from the opposite direction where the CEO might say like, I want us to do this, and then create a concept and then give it to you. But so I guess, does everything just kind of get funneled through the agentic engineer where you can just take these ideas and say like, okay, we have this thing, we're going to give it to the agentic engineer now. Tell us how to actually operationalize this.
No, not really. I think, because that would create like a single point of failure almost, where the entire company is relying on one person to be the executor of the prototype.
Right.
I think that's sort of an antithesis to what these capabilities unlock. It would be more the case where ideas are coming in from anywhere and people are empowered to build prototypes for their ideas on their own. And if a prototype is successful enough and has actual value, then it goes to the relevant team. So one thing that I've sort of come up with, I think, in the time that I've been working in these 5-6 years, is that with AI, a lot of organizations think that you can compress the time that it takes to ship a feature, and you can get acceleration on speed. So you'll regularly see these quotes like, oh, things that used to take 9 months now take 9 days. Things that used to take 6 months now take 3 hours. And CEOs are sort of using that as a way of justifying whatever hiring changes that are happening. What I like to think is that you should not think about it in terms of compressing speed. You should think about it in terms of having harder problems to solve. So in those same, let's say 9 months, if you try to compress it to 3 months with the help of AI, you will eventually get a bad product down the line, because you are skipping out on a lot of important processes that are not being realized. But if you take those same 9 months and you say, now we have a lot of time, can we think about what we can do better in the product? Can we solve harder problems with these new capabilities? I think that is the question people need to be asking themselves, instead of saying, oh, I can do things faster. Because the speed is relative for everything. But how hard a problem is something that you can control. And harder problems that you solve eventually lead to better value propositions, eventually lead to customers being satisfied, eventually leads to more revenue, which is essentially what a business exists for.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, something else that I found interesting about this is how it kind of, at least in terms of leadership or organizational leadership, how it kind of collapses a lot of like parts of what it means to run a company. So, because you had mentioned earlier, like you can test products and then you can then start making them. Like if there's something that you think your users would want, you can just create it right away. So if I'm a CEO, I just create a product and I don't need my operations team to even work on it. But it's sounding like that might not necessarily be the case, because you still need the infrastructure of like everyone in your company to kind of like take that product across the finish line. So a CEO is not going to be able to just single-handedly create their own products anytime soon. Am I getting that right?
As of today, no.
Okay.
Anytime soon, I can't say, because who knows what's going to happen 3 months from now.
Good point. Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at the trend, then yes. CEOs and most like executive leadership positions, they're in a spot where they're sufficiently detached from the actual work, but not too much. So when they use AI and they're able to like create these prototypes, they think this is all that's needed, and therefore we should be able to reduce all of this time that's required. But if you're sufficiently detached from like the actual operations, then you won't know the actual effort that goes into making something of a certain status and of a certain caliber. And so they think, okay, yeah, I can do this in 3 hours, therefore everybody should be able to do this in 3 hours.
Yeah.
But what the CEO has not thought about is, how do we ensure backups? How do we add, secure checkouts? How do we add secure payments? How do we deal with all the legal complications of using a bunch of different software? Like, you should be investing a lot more into training your existing people on what the benefits and pitfalls are of this new era of software that is upon us. Because those are the people that know about your company, your processes, and they'll be able to better tell you, okay, so this is where we're lacking, this is where we should implement it.
Yeah.
But if you remove those people and you get more people eventually at the end, you will have to do that. Like, if you fire, let's say 40% of your company, and you realize, oh shit, my company doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I need to hire more people.
Yeah.
It's like double costing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've definitely seen stories of that already happening. So you alluded to this notion of culture. So how does that play into the picture here?
Yeah. So when I say culture, what I mean is how welcome and how safe your employees are feeling in the company. So I have been fortunate enough to work at Bain and now Tavily here, and both of these companies I can tell care a lot and invest a lot in their culture. And that is one of the reasons why I feel safe and empowered to run these small experiments, go out, explore, push the boundaries. And I feel that's the case for many of my other colleagues as well. If you contrast that to a company that, does not invest a lot in their culture, or it's too big to maybe invest in their culture, then the employees there will keep feeling every time that, should I do this? Should I not do this? Do I have my job tomorrow? If I talk to my manager today, will he give me a bad review and fire me? If you have those kind of pressing questions, every day that you go into work, you will not have the space and the mental clarity that, oh, there's a new thing that's coming out. Maybe I should try it. Maybe I experiment and push the boundaries with it. So culture historically has been important, but I do feel that down the line, it's going to be even more important because it's going to be a big contributing factor in how your employees and you as an organization are adopting this new era of software that is upon us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that these kind of old school ideas of like treat your people well, they still have a place in the organizations of the future and with vibe coding involved and everything. So yeah, that's I think that's a good place to end. So Lakshya Agarwal, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and your insights.
No, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right, and that's the show. Thank you so much for listening. And a special thank you to Lakshya Agarwal for sharing his time and insights today. So at Delve, we're here to bring you the best management insights from the experts at McGill University. So if you liked this conversation, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player and check out the links in the show notes for more content about tech, management, and AI. So Delve is the official thought leadership platform of the Desautels Faculty of Management here at McGill. And my name's Eric DeCare. I'm Delve's managing editor, and I was your host today. I also produced and edited this episode. And Professor Saku Mantra is our editor-in-chief, and he produced all of our original music. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.